It's Monday, May 27th, June 27th, 2022, 7:36 p.m. And I call this meeting of the Needham Design Review Board to order. I'm the board chair, Mark Lusing. I would like to confirm that all members and applicants are present and can hear us. So members, when I call your name, please respond. Bob Dermody.
Here.
Steve Tanner.
Here.
Okay, and Susan did not ultimately make it. Also attending our town staff support persons, Rana Monadorfer and Elisa Lichman. Applicants on the agenda, if one of you, if there's multiples, just respond that and let us know you can hear us. 56 Brook Street, Williston Weavers.
Here.
Okay. That's a special permit. 173 Chestnut Street, Chase Bank, special permit.
Here.
100 West Street, site plan review.
We're here.
There's Evans, okay. 144 Gould Street, Epic Insurance. Okay, well, we'll see if they show up as we move along. 110 Gould Street, Hampton, Kearney et al. Signage.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Good
Mark.
evening. Welcome to this open meeting of the Needham Design Review Board, which is being conducted remotely due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Needham Design Review Board is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, the Design Review Board page, identifying how the public may join. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. DRB meetings do not typically engage with public comment. There are 2 special permit applications tonight for which we will take comments. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this board are available on the town's website. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Please note this meeting is being recorded and some attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware that other people may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer unless the chair approves. Please mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. I would like to review the remote meeting procedures for tonight's meeting. I will introduce each applicant on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will take comments or questions from the public on special permit applications, then DRB members. On the other applications, it will go straight to the Design Review Board. After discussion, each vote will be by roll call vote. A copy of your application stamped and noted for the type of approval that it receives will be emailed to the applicant by the DRB support staff. That can be attached to your building permit application. So we'll start with the first item on the agenda. Williston Weavers, 56 Brook Street. They have a special permit applications for an extra sign, extra 2 signs. And then they also have a regular sign application. So we're just going to review this package all together, similar to what we did last time they were here. So I will turn it over to Williston Weavers.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gunnar McCormick from Agnoli Sign. Christina Moreau is not able to join tonight. So I'm standing in her stead, and John, the owner of Williston Weaves, is on as well. What we're proposing is, coming back based upon the comments on the last meeting. I believe you have the drawings of the signs. Sign A, based upon feedback, we made clear that it does not cover that window. That's as the existing sign did, and it's more of a directional pointing to the entrance, because that's as you come up to the building, that's the wall that you see. So pointing people around to the right, where the entrance to the building is. And then on that wall where the entrance is, we're proposing putting a sign which faces kind of the exit that's there. And I believe that sign is by right. And there's an existing awning there that we are going to lower so it's not over, not as close to the top of the wall, and recover as just blank black awning. And then there was a third sign around the corner that faces the main road that's there, sign C. That is, these are all non-illuminated signs. If anyone had any questions about that.
I just want to sort of get organized on what we're looking at. So your last application had a sign on the awning. You're not going to do that now? You want
Right.
to put it on the wall?
Yes.
And that would be sign B. And
Yes.
sign C is your special permit sign? Well, actually, you have an issue that actually two of these kind of fall into that due to the scale of the signs. 30 square feet, 20, okay. The secondary sign on that parking lot typically is for a second entrance, but we understand the site layout here. We've been able to look at it. We discussed it a little bit at the last meeting, so we will go ahead. I will let the members ask if they have any questions. Steve, do you have some comments, questions on these three signs?
Looking at the three signs, I kind of like the B sign, and I think that the C sign should be the same size as the B sign. There's a lot of extra space on that, and the sign type B was kind of laid out nicely. And I would propose two signs being that size, because they have them both at 144 inches wide. And sign A, you know, they could make it a little bit smaller, like 28 or something, just so that all of them have like the same like negative space underneath Williston Weavers before it hits the 55 Brook Road. Looks like a little extra space in there. But I don't have any other real issues.
Okay, Bob?
Thanks, Mark. This is my first time seeing this, and I just have a couple of clarification questions. The entrances of this business is closest to sign B, is that correct?
Yes, that wall
Okay.
underneath the awning is the entrance.
I would prefer or suggest two signs, A and C. And then for the entrance side, it would seem odd. Yes, I agree to have no sign near an entrance. So maybe a much smaller one could be accommodated there just for the door. But looking at the overhead view you provide, I believe that's an on-ramp to the highway, which presumably, from my understanding of the image, sign C would be visible from that road. B, by the time they get around the corner, they're not going to see B, I do not believe. And then A makes sense for cars coming in from the north, I believe. So I think A and C are appropriate locations for signs, and then maybe a sign on the door or a small one on the awning just to really clarify the entrance, because the only people who will see the entrance, in my belief, would be someone on foot who's already got out of the car and walking to the door. I guess I don't see the need for all three signs.
Okay. That would be my.
One more, that's it so far, sort of global picture, Mark, excuse me. I'll stop talking, and then I want to look at the signs more closely for font and size, et cetera. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. I don't think that there's really a need for those two signs right on the corner, you know, just a few inches apart technically from that rear parking lot. I do think that the sign C does provide visibility from Highland Ave. It's also visible on the on-ramp, and you know, sign B just becomes a little repetitive. And I don't think it accomplishes anything that the other two signs don't already do. Certainly think the one in the rear lot with the adjustments that were made last time, pointing out the entrance and defining the address is helpful and useful. I am a little concerned about the proportions on the one that faces Highland Ave, sign C. It is significantly, as Steve has mentioned, it's kind of a significantly different shape. It's 4 feet high by 144 long versus 30 inches on the other two signs. And I'm wondering why those proportions were chosen in lieu of something similar to the other two signs. So that'd be a question for the applicant there.
I mean, the choices were made based upon visibility and who was seeing it. So, you know, if it's further away and the traffic is going at a faster speed, then you need a larger sign in order to be visible at that distance and at that speed. So that's what drove that.
Okay,
So
well,
when
generally our size limit is 32 square feet. So you are in a position where visibility to 128 does allow slightly larger signs. So can give you that. I just, could you tell me the height of the lettering in the sign A and sign C? So say what's the W and how large is the W within the Williston Weaves lettering on those two signs?
The Williston Weaves is about 10 inches
Okay, and
on sign A.
okay,
Is that 10 inches the capital letters or the lowercase letters?
Capital.
Okay, thank you.
and sign C?
Sign C is actually, and let me see here. It's about the same.
So the main difference is
Little-
if the
little
lettering
bit.
is the same, why is the sign 18
Yeah, I'm
inches
sorry.
larger?
Yeah, no, it is a little bit bigger. I'm looking at it here. It's probably I don't have the measurements on here. Let's see. Yeah, so it's about probably 13, 14 inches.
Okay. And the change on the awning is technically a facade change, so but we can use your application and review it that way. Are there any comments or questions on the awning itself from the members? Okay.
It's going to be a blank awning, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I do have a question on the address being on the signs. That's typically not a common thing that we do or the applicants do with signs in Needham. And I would offer that sign A definitely does not need the address on it. If my understanding is correct, they would be in a vehicle at 56 Brook Road by the time they read it. So I understand entrance, that I buy, you know, and some of these locations in Needham, it's difficult to find an entrance. So that I'm okay with helping people get to the entrance, but I don't think having the address on. And then on the other sides, the address I think is useless given the speeds at which you mentioned.
Well, I do think that on Highland Ave, that's a higher paced road. It's not an entrance ramp, and there's a traffic light there now. So I think there's some slowing of traffic, especially going towards Newton. And
Yeah.
that might be helpful. There's nowhere else on this building to put an address, to put an address that's visible. So, I'm okay with it in this case.
Is it all right to comment on that?
No, we're having a little internal discussion here for a moment.
Fair enough.
I think we lost Steve, did we?
Yeah, it looks like we did. I don't recall us doing many addresses on signs.
No, that's
And
true.
if we think about how the world works, the address is already in their phone. And if they see the name, they will Google it once they have stopped at a secure location, presumably.
Again, this particular neighborhood, because of its
Yep.
all pavement, no road
Yeah.
layout, I'm
Yeah.
tending to lean a little, give a little more leeway here, but
That's fine.
I-
Well, then,
if
but
Steve
maybe-
back, we'll know for sure.
All right, but maybe not on all three signs. I don't think we need the address on all three. Did we lose? I cannot hear all of a sudden.
Oh,
there we
I'm
go.
like, somehow I muted. Okay, sorry. I think I agree with you, the sign next to the awning probably is unnecessary. And I'm especially looking at the site plan, it seems like it's well covered. But we do need to get Steve back. So I'm gonna pause for a second here.
Do you want me to email him or?
Sorry to interrupt. Is Priscilla Khan, is she with any analyst? She part of any projects? No? Okay. Priscilla, I'm sorry, we're not taking, no, we are. Is this a hearing?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a
Okay.
minute.
Yes, we will get to that in a moment. Sorry, Priscilla.
We're gonna have to,
Okay.
Steve's gonna have to log back in, so.
Sorry, I forgot that we had 2 hearings.
I don't know where Steve is. Says he's lost his internet connection, but maybe he can move around and get back with us momentarily.
Yeah.
Right, we're going back live next time. I've had it. This is enough. Okay. Where were we? All right, are there any questions or comments from the public on this application?
Yes.
Well, why don't you go ahead? Please state your name and that you're a Needham resident, or where you live.
My name is Priscilla Khan. I live at 19 Oak Knoll Terrace here in Needham.
Okay,
And I don't see anybody, but I guess that's not necessary. Just as an interested party regarding the signs, you all seem to think that everybody has a cell phone. I know of many people in my age group who either don't have a cell phone or it's only accepts calls and takes calls, So please consider that there are people who don't have cell phones to give them exact directions and include the address on the sign. Thank you.
all right, thanks. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay. We need to get Steve back. We're gonna be in trouble here, so hold on.
You're muted, Mike.
Taking a 2-minute recess. I'll be right back.
think.
Yes, back. We can hear you and see you, Steve.
Okay.
Your computer's gonna work too then.
Back in business.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. You
All right,
Your
so
knocked it out with your feet.
well, we appreciate the changes to the awning. As we were troubled last time by the way it was cut through that metal coping. So that's a great improvement. I think it'll look good. So I think for the first item, I would like to take a motion to approve the awning change that is illustrated on sheet B. Somebody moves that for me?
So moved.
I
Mark.
make move, seconded.
Okay. We come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Aye.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
and the chair approves. Let's do sign A. I would take a motion to approve by sign A with the condition that they remove 56, well, Bob, do you really want to remove? I don't think it's really that obtrusive there, but if you want to remove it, we'll remove it. This is on the back side, so they're already there, but
Just let me review real quick. I appreciate the person who commented. So I want to let them know if they're still listening. I hear that. I'm scrolling through. Sorry, I want to look at each sign again.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, it's not on that one. And it's on that one. Yeah, I guess I'm okay with it there.
okay. So I would take a motion to approve sign A as submitted.
So moved.
Seconded.
We come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Aye.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
and the chair approves. All right. Sign B, the consensus, Steve, while you were away, is that that's kind of an extra sign that doesn't really do much and is kind of unnecessary, because by the time you see that, you're there. The other two signs are visible from all the travel ways that we're looking at. So I would take a motion to deny sign B.
So
The
moved.
only thing I would say about sign B is where they showed it, there was a fixture above it in the old existing sign. Is that fixture going to be removed? You know, a light fixture? A floor flood fixture?
Well, we're not, if we don't approve the sign, there's no reason for the light, but
Right, that's.
and
my point.
they're so I can't make removing the light a condition of denial. So I can't.
Okay, I have no problem with denying that sign.
Okay. So we come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Aye.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
the chair approves the denial. All right, sign C. I would accept a motion to approve sign C as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
And a vote. Bob Dermody,
Aye.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
the chair approves. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Williston. And good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a public notice. A public hearing for a special permit, Chase Bank, 173 Chestnut Street. There's a second sign, and the sign is closer than 15 feet to the lot line. This is the old previous 7-Eleven at the corner of Oak and Chestnut, which they include pictures. So I will, so who is this? I'm sorry. So I will turn it over to their representative. So,
Yeah, how you doing? It's Eric Metzger. I'm representing Chase Bank here. I'm with
Okay.
Philadelphia Signs. Yeah, we're looking to, the old 7-Eleven sign there was a 4x4 cabinet. We're looking to do the exact same, pretty much want to reface that sign with a new the Chase sign. I don't think they're in that brand book I gave you, but they're only 6 3/4 inch. The octagon we're showing there, that's the 12-inch octagon. The background, that's a dark nickel, not illuminate, but the little letters, we'd like to have those illuminate. So the background's all opaque, the letters illuminate. Yeah, I mean, that's that sign. We just really kind of jumps out at you before you want to make a decide to go into the bank or whatever. So we'd like to keep that if at all possible.
All right, is there any other signage on the building? I don't
Yeah,
recall.
we actually, the project was a few months ago. They were in front of you at the board, and they first in that gable area
Yeah.
facing Chestnut Street that got approved.
Okay.
And a small octagon sign that's by the doorway. It's just literally just an octagon by itself.
Okay. That was sort of my memory, but I wanted to clarify. All right, questions, Bob?
I'm still looking at the PDF, please. Go to Steve, maybe.
Yeah.
Steve, you have any questions or comments?
Is this the sign that just replacing really the face of the existing 7-Eleven sign?
Eric, is that just replacing he's kind of going in and out here, but I believe that's how they describe it.
Yeah, and I
Only
have new
faces,
cladding
only-
that we'll put around the pole.
Okay,
But
Okay, that, if I may, Mark?
Yep.
Yeah, so thanks for making that comment about the new cladding. If you could talk about that, because the rendering on the page, I guess it's 12 of our PDF for my colleagues, that shows the elevation of the sign with the heights. The post looks much fatter than the existing post. So what might that new cladding be material-wise, and what might be the out dimension of that post?
Eric, do you know the dimensions of that finished post, and will it fit within the parameters of the?
cladding is 8 inches wide.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a bad morph that you got there, but I know we spec and it'll be painted the new cladding will be 8 inches wide. So it'll actually till now, to be honest with you,
Okay.
but it's 8 inches wide, the cladding.
And what's the material?
Aluminum.
Okay, and painted the same color as the background of the sign?
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, your connection's breaking up,
Yeah, it'll
Eric.
be, dark nickel, they call it.
Okay.
You guys, sorry about that. Basement. But yeah, that's it's aluminum is the material,
Okay.
and it's painted dark nickel, is what I was saying, and eight
Okay.
inches wide.
And what is the width of the cabinet? Greater or less than 8?
The width of the cabinet, it's 12 inches.
Okay, all
that
right, so it'll sit on top of even this new cladding. Okay,
Yes.
okay, thanks.
Mhm.
And Mark, I think you just asked this. I may have missed the prior hearing. How many total signs will this bank have?
this is the only one. The total signs will have 2. This is the second sign.
Okay. The other is in the gable
other-
facing Chestnut?
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
so it's a by right sign. There's a problem as well.
Yep.
Because the Chase logo was treated as a sign. This is really an extra sign as the building inspector reviewed it. and suggested this approach. So,
Okay.
are there any comments from the public?
No, there is not.
Okay. Steve, any other?
No, no additional comments.
Okay. All right, so I think it's works
One last
fine.
thing, Mark, sorry, I think this might have been mentioned. I just want to clarify. This is not illuminated.
It is
No.
illuminated.
Yeah, the background is all not illuminated, but the letters will illuminate. That's what we would like.
Oh, the chase will be illuminated. Okay.
Yeah.
And are those, maybe Steve can help me out here. Are those white, the letters? I mean, quote unquote, white letters?
Yes.
What? Yep, white letters. Blue
All right.
logo.
Yeah, I think that's fine, given the rest of it is so dark that they'll just glow through. So I'm okay with that. Thanks, Mark. Nothing further.
Okay. So I would take a motion to approve the
So moved.
submission.
Seconded.
We come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Aye.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
and the chair approves. All right. Thanks, Eric.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh, I did not realize I was not muted. I'm sorry.
Well, I will ask you later what is so funny.
You guys are just very competitive about the seconding. And
I prefer to look at it as efficient.
all right. You guys are very efficient.
There you go.
All right. Next item is a site plan review for 100 West Street. We have a team here. I will turn it over to you, Evans, to take us through this. I guess we did look at this last year, and Elisa sent you all a link. I don't see a lot of differences. That particular review, I don't know if you remember, Bob, we talked a little bit about the rooftop views for the tenants, but it wasn't really something there. And then Nelson Hammer at the time did some extensive review and did some review after the meeting with their landscaper. And they made some design changes that we suggested, but we had approved it last year. So I will, with that beginning, I'll let you take over, Evans. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, you guys have seen these plans or plans that look very similar to these before, but because of the nature of the new program that we're applying for a special permit, the planning board asked that we file a completely new application as opposed to an amendment to the existing special permit. And for that reason, we need to come back in front of the design review board for your review. What we're going to, the application was about 15 months ago. So the purpose of our appearing before you tonight is just to introduce you briefly to the new operator, Balfour. Michael Schoenbrunn is here on behalf of Balfour just to speak briefly about that. And then Elizabeth Peabody from TAT and Ben France from Hawk Design are here, and their presentation is going to focus on just the changes since the last time. You know, the structure and the drawings probably look pretty similar at first glance. There are some exterior design changes, so we will focus on those. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Schoenbrunn to speak a little bit about Balfour.
Michael, before you start, I do have 2 slides if you'd like me to put those on the screen. Hi, everyone.
Okay, go ahead.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Schoenbrunn. I'm the founder and CEO of Balfour Senior Living, which, as you see on the screen, has been in operation since 1997. We have 10 communities, 9 of those in Colorado, 1 in Michigan and Ann Arbor, and several in development currently, in addition to the Needham project, Brookline and Palisades. I'll go through this quickly because there's much to do and this is familiar to you, but Balfour is very committed to having great buildings with great design, both exterior and interior. We've won a number of awards over our 23 years of operation, and we're excited about the Needham opportunity. As you will hear more, we're doing relatively little to the outside, very similar to what the previous operator, LCB, was doing. Welltower, who's our equity partner, has asked Balfour to come in and operate the property and bring in our particular design expertise, which really are focused on making the community as vibrant and lively for our residents and for our neighbors as possible. We take great pride in being part of the neighborhood and providing resources to folks, both retail and community groups in the neighborhood. We want to be a good neighbor, and we work very hard at doing that. We have an interior design group, as well as using great world-class architects like TAT. We're big believers that the quality of life is dependent on great buildings with great design and great programs and services. And I'm going to be happy to answer questions, but I think at this point, I will turn things over to Liz Peabody at TAT to review the program. And obviously the slides speak for themselves, but happy to go back as we move forward if there are remaining questions.
Absolutely. Okay. So thank you everyone for allowing me the opportunity to re-present this project. As we said, a lot of this is going to be really similar. So to be respectful of your time, I'm going to move a little bit quickly and just focus on the things that have changed. If you want me to slow down and talk about anything further, don't hesitate to stop me. So kicking things off here on this first slide, you can already see what is probably the biggest change, the most noticeable change from the previous presentation. The amenity penthouse has been removed. So I'm not sure if you guys can see my mouse, but on the West Street side, you can see we now only have kind of a mechanical enclosure and the elevator overrun, but the penthouse has been removed. The unit penthouse.
Hey, let me just jump in here for a sec, because there was an important detail that I didn't include in my initial remarks that may provide better context for everything that the rest of the team is saying. And that is that the previous plan had 3 programs: independent living, assisted living, and memory care. The current proposal that we are going to be putting in front of the planning board is to have only 2 programs: assisted living and memory care. It'll be the same number of memory care units, but the entire rest of the building will be assisted living. And that's the reason, for example, that the amenity that Liz is referring to now on the roof is being removed, because there are only 2 programs, but there's a lot more amenity space inside the building for the assisted living folks.
Thanks, Evans. Yes, that is the reason that we're here representing. So hopefully that helps, gives you some context. So the unit penthouse that's still here is extremely similar to what was there before. The footprint has not changed. It's shifted a little bit, but the size has not changed. There's now 11 units up there instead of 10. And so there's 11 terraces instead of the 10, but from an aesthetic point of view, there's been no meaningful change. It looks very similar to what it did previously. So here on this slide, the vast majority of changes that you see here are internal, which is not the topic of today's meeting. So I'm going to focus on the external changes. Starting at the bottom left, you'll notice that there are actually 4 fewer unit patios along Highland Ave than there were previously. And that's just due to the reconfiguration of the program going on behind it. Another notable change on the exterior is the main entry. Currently, there's just an overhang there. We're proposing to completely rebuild it and close it, make it a true vestibule, and extend the overhang a little bit. And we'll get into more detail on that once we get to the elevation slides. The majority of the other changes are landscape related, which I will let Ben from Hawk talk about in detail. But I do want to touch very briefly on two important points. One being the West Street Courtyard, which there'll be a better view of this over here towards the end of the presentation. Previously, the memory care courtyard was located here, and as you recall, a memory care courtyard requires an 8-foot tall solid fence. So that's been relocated to the center of the site, which we think provides a much more open and neighborly feel towards the West Street kind of area. So we're very excited about that. You hear me? I'm sorry, my computer's telling me my microphone was not working.
No, we can hear you good. Well,
Okay, great, thank you. The other minor item I wanted to talk about here is the transformer location. So what we're showing here in the center of this courtyard is the current existing location. If and when we more fully engage with the utility company, we're going to propose this alternate location. You can see right here next to the trash enclosure. We feel this is a better location, but of course the utility company needs to provide approval for, so that's somewhat subject to change, but that's what we'll be proposing. It's naturally screened by this trash enclosure, and it will also be screened by the 8-foot memory care fence. So it's a nice tucked out of the way kind of location. And if they approve that, of course, things will be adjusted to account for it. All right, so the only notable change here is the addition of these double height spaces in part of the assisted amenity program. We'll look at that in more detail once we get to the elevations. Otherwise, all of the changes are interior. All of the notable changes on the 3rd floor are internal. And then here we're at the 4th floor and the roof plan. And as you can see, like I mentioned, the amenity penthouse has been removed, and what's remaining is just the unit penthouse. So these elevations probably look very familiar to you. This is the east elevation along Highland Avenue. On the ground level, you can see the reduction in unit patios, but otherwise the elevations are largely unchanged. I do want to pause for a minute and talk about the windows. In the previous application, we were proposing to keep all of the existing windows. In this application, we will be replacing all of the windows with casement windows with the appearance of double hung. They're high efficiency windows with high STC ratings. We're currently proposing white or a light cream color palette with a 6/1 light pattern. We felt reducing some of the muntins would help the windows feel a little bit more open for the residents from the inside, and then from the outside, still kind of maintaining the appearance of those original windows. I also want to call attention to the Penthouse Materials. We're still proposing the same materials, still fiber cement and wood trellis, but the color palette has changed somewhat. So we're now proposing a light and dark gray contrast, which I think gives a nice emphasis to the change in plane. Where we have these dark colors, this is where the unit. Here, really the only difference is the removal of the amenity penthouse. Otherwise, everything has remained the same. This is the west elevation looking at the building from the parking lot. You can see in the bottom enlarged view here, this is the entry vestibule that I spoke about earlier. So as you can see, it's fairly in keeping with the current, with what's existing, and it's not terribly different from what was there before, but we are proposing to enclose it and kind of elevate those materials. Now we're proposing a brick and precast enclosure. And as you can see, we've upgraded these windows to be these very large, glassy, storefront curtain wall type windows with a dark frame, which is going to bring attention and indicate importance to these areas. What we're looking at with these double height windows are those assisted living amenity spaces. So it's just going to bring a lot of light and natural ambience to those spaces inside, which we feel is very important. The other change from the previous application that I'll just touch on are some of these other, you see these other storefront areas in the center image. The one over here on the left is access to the assisted living lobby. And then these two in the center are the memory care amenity access doors. These are going to be connected directly to the memory care courtyard. And then these two over here are just back of house loading. Not much change from the previous iteration. I'm just checking that I haven't missed anything. Oh, so you may notice that some of these Muntin patterns are a little bit different from what was submitted in the initial package. There were some Muntins unintentionally omitted, so I just fixed that for this presentation. We can always come back to talk about it later if we need to. Okay. So this is the proposed south elevation from the other parking lot. And again, really no change other than the placement and location of these doors to coincide with the new unit layouts. Very, very similar to the original proposal. This slide is really just showing you how little has changed. The Highland Avenue wall section is identical. The south section is identical to what you've seen before. The north section just shows the omission of the amenity penthouse. Okay, and I'll pause here briefly before I move on to my next set of slides. If anybody has any questions, this slide is just showing our material color selections and giving kind of an enlarged view of the elevations. You can see the windows with the 6/1 light pattern and some precedent imagery. My next set of slides is just a series of perspectives. Does anybody have questions on what I've presented so far? I know I moved very quickly.
No, that's fine. I guess we would look back at it's the west elevation with the new entrances and the storefront. My question is that on the ground floor around the rest of the sides, you're staying with that same color pattern in the windows. And then in the upper portions of this facade, have the same, that's that sort of white off-white cream. But there are sections here of that you call the sort of storefront material. Is that a different color? It looks like it's a dark color.
It's a dark color, yes. And the intention behind that is to draw attention to these more important spaces. It is a slightly more modern look to it, which we think we're going to blend out nicely with the interiors. So that's the intent behind it.
Okay, and then so if I look at the bottom one, which is near the main entrance, the left, so those windows would also be the dark material and the sort of second level ones as well.
Correct. So call it
and
storefront or curtain wall. These are intended to be double height openings with a spandrel panel in the middle.
Okay. All right. No, go ahead. You can, unless the others have specific questions right now, we can run through your perspectives and then we'll offer some comments after we see the landscaping.
I think
I
Bob
see your hands up. Did you
has
have
a
something?
question or a comment.
Bob, you want to?
Yeah, thank you. Quickly. Thanks for the presentation. Can you go back to a roof plan? I think I may have asked this before and just want to confirm if there's any changes. What is the roofing material like right outside these residences, both the windows and the terraces?
The material of the terrace itself or the material of the main roof?
The main roof that's not part of, like, what are they looking at basically?
It's going to be a rubber roofing. So whether it's TPO or EPDM, something along that nature.
Is there a color choice considered yet?
So the project is targeting LEED gold. My guess is that it will end up being white, but it is not fully determined.
Okay, I just guess I would have some concern about that with respect to being on a terrace adjacent to that large field. And some of those
about glare.
Yeah, glare. Yeah, exactly. And then the condition of it over time as they live next door to it. You know, great to be up there and get some outside space, but that hopefully will be considered, please. Thank you. And then also the I believe it was referred to as a memory care courtyard on the ground with the 8-foot fence. And what are the issues? Thank you. What are the issues with locating it there, which I think seems good as opposed to the West Street side, but right next to a transformer and the dumpsters. So what was considered with that and the adjacencies of those uses?
No, that's a
That's-
great question. Thank you for asking. So the dumpster location, we unfortunately don't have a lot of options. And the experience of the resident in that courtyard, they're not really going to interact with this dumpster. They're not going to see it. Obviously, every care will be taken for it to not be kind of an odorous issue for them. But there are not a lot of other great options, and the alternative would be to kind of shift it over to the other side, in which case the assisted living courtyard will be visually interacting with
Right.
the dumpster enclosure, which not ideal either. And then to touch on the transformer, at the moment, we know the current location is where it is, and to say that it will definitely be in a different location, we just need the utility company's engagement. The intent is absolutely not to keep the transformer at that current existing location. The desire is definitely to move it, but we
And
need the
where's-
utility company to sign off.
Where's the existing location again, please?
It's right here, this dark
Oh, right. Yep.
gray.
Okay. And then
And just
lastly,
in case, Bob, just in case
Yep.
it's not clear, the
Yep.
proposed location that's shown here, adjacent to the dumpsters, that would be outside of the memory court
Correct,
fence.
Great.
correct.
that's fine. Great. Thank you for the clarification. And then lastly, and this is probably outside of the purview of this board, but I'll still ask it as I'm known to do. The timing of the trucks coming to unload the dumpsters with the use of the memory care courtyard. And I just hope that someone's thinking about that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be an
Thank you.
operational concern that we will definitely keep in mind. I don't see any reason why they can't coordinate that outside of peak use hours.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else before I move on?
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so again, I'm going to move pretty quickly. You have seen all of these perspectives before, but they've been updated to show the current proposed design. Please take note of the bottom left-hand corner. This is going to kind of orient you to where these photographs are taken. This is a view from Highland Avenue, and this is that same view with our current project. You can see that the penthouse is barely perceptible. Obviously, and I'll let Ben from Hawk talk about the landscaping, but landscaping will be updated throughout, so he'll talk about that a little bit more later. This is another view from Highland Ave towards the West Street end. And again, here is the updated view with our project, barely perceptible penthouse all the way towards the back. This is another view from West Street. And here is, you can see the penthouse a little bit more from this view. And here's a proposed what that courtyard might look like. The omission of the fence is really the big focus here, that you don't have that big solid fence on West Street. This is a view from Mellon Street. And here's the view with our project. You can see the penthouse. This is a view from Hillside Avenue across the train tracks. And again, with the penthouse. And this is a view from the south parking lot and what that's going to look like with the penthouse. So that's the end of my portion of the presentation. I can turn this over to Ben, unless you guys have any other questions.
Yeah, why don't we go through the landscaping and then we'll,
Great.
if there are any on the building, you can step in as we go through.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Ben, here you go.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. You are correct. We did work extensively with Mr. Hammer in our last submission that we made and was approved. I believe we had quite a nice selection of plant species. So the planting plans in this application have remained very similar to the previous approved plans. The specified plant species that we have proposed remain unchanged from the approved plans. Obviously, some quantity changes and some shifts of planting to coordinate with the revised architecture that Liz just reviewed, but by and large remain quite similar to our approved plans. Along the Highland Avenue facade and the southern parking area facade of the building, very minor adjustments were made to the locations of plantings, coordinating with the refined window and patio locations. Liz discussed the elimination of a few of the patios along Highland Avenue. So certainly we infilled those areas with plantings, plantings that the species that we already had at the property. One of the largest changes that we feel is really quite a positive for the town is the West Street and Highland Avenue intersection there. As Liz pointed out, we're removing the memory care courtyard from along West Street. So we've eliminated that 8-foot required fence for that memory care courtyard along there. So that's really allowed us to create a nice landscape setting along there, opening up some views of our property and creating a nice landscape entrance into the parking area and also the walkway that services the door. We have proposed a small patio out there for seating for our residents that can walk there along the walking paths that are within the property, sit down, have a nice coffee and a chat. The retaining wall, brick retaining wall and columns, as well as the ornamental metal fence that exists today will remain to about the corner of the building. We are removing the other sections that continue westerly towards the railroad tracks, creating a more inviting, more open entrance into the parking area. Along the western facade of the building, as Liz had discussed, we're creating the memory care courtyard, which once was our lifestyle courtyard in the previous submission. This coordinates with the interior planning of the building. As we just discussed, we really think it will be beneficial if we can move the transformer, and we talked about that. But we have a walkway that really connects the library and the dining areas and the memory care wing of the building. Along the way, we have some small seating areas, a water feature, as well as a shade structure in the southwest corner, creating nice seating areas for those residents to enjoy the outdoors. Moving south from there over to the other side of the service entrance, we have our lifestyle courtyard now that connects with the Jockey Club adjacent to the assisted living portion of the building. That too creates a nice outdoor seating area for the residents of the assisted living part of the campus. We have 2 shade structures flanking a fireplace in there, so really acting as a seasonal extension. Can enjoy that in the earlier spring months, or later in the fall. Really extends that use area, as well as a water feature in there. We see this really as being quite a nice active courtyard for people to get outside. In our arrival circle, we see this as being another area where folks can go and sit. In the center, we see a centerpiece sculptural feature in the center there, ringed by a walkway and some benches so that our residents can go out there and sit and see people coming and going to the property. I will move on to lighting. Liz, if you could change to the next slide. So for the lighting plan, again, very similar to what you previously saw. Due to the efficiency of our new proposed light that you see here on the bottom right of the page, we were able to reduce the number of lights that were proposed from 31 on our approved plans to 26 on this current. So a few less site lights, which we feel is really a positive for the project. The proposed light will be an LED fixture that's going to be fully dark sky compliant, obviously, with backside shields that will prevent off-site light spill where needed. They have been reduced in height from the previously approved plans of 16 feet down to 14 feet, so a little bit more pedestrian scale light. And then light bollards have also been reduced in quantity from 28 to 15, mainly due to the reconfiguration of the resident courtyards in there. So in closing, we feel that this current application is very similar to our previous, and just very minor configuration changes to meet Balfour's proposed program.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, I would open it up to more questions. Bob, do you have any further?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thanks for that description. With respect to, I think I saw one elevation, maybe some vegetation or, planted elements near the penthouse level. Is there anything proposed up there near the terraces? Or was that a overrun of a tree or something that I saw?
That might have been an overrun of a tree. Previously, when we had an amenity penthouse proposed, we had shown some landscaping. I'm just paging up to see. I think we're showing, people's planters.
Yeah. So would that be like resident controlled if they wanted to put a flower pot out there kind of thing?
Sure, I think we were just trying to indicate that this is hopefully a used lived-in space.
Right. Okay, yeah, I'm good for now, Mark. Thanks.
Okay. Steve, do you have any questions, comments?
No, I don't, but thank you.
Okay. All right, well, I thought it was well done. I think we had some discussion of lighting last time, and I like the reduction in scale and on those and the fewer lights. It's always better. It's not a heavily residential neighborhood, but it's the beginning of a residential neighborhood. We had some discussions before about the screening level on those and the fencing along those small patios on Highland Ave because they are sort of below the sidewalk. I think we sort of resolved that issue at the time, and I think the current documentation shows that similar approach to what we had discussed and agreed to before.
Agreed, we haven't changed that approach.
And I would echo Bob's concerns on the roof. I don't know what white versus another color does to your lead score, but that is a consideration that we talked about last time also. It's just the potential glare for the residents in those units that face, especially to the south, that it can be pretty bright. I think you've moved them closer to the parking side, so there's less of that issue on the rest of the sides. It's really just the Highland Ave and this sort of south facade that have potential, but I think that works well. I think the memory care move is an improvement. I like that current corner with that iron fence that has a nice sort of, this is private, but we're part of the neighborhood feel to it. And I think that that'll be improved by the removal of that other fence and the extension of that open landscaping out. So I think that'll be very nice. So
Actually, I thought of a new question, if I may, Mark.
Sure.
The fence that's been discussed around the memory courtyard, is that solid or see-through?
Yes, it is solid. That's required.
Okay, fine. That's what I thought. Thank you.
And since we're talking about that fence, what is the material selection for that?
We would
8-foot fence?
8-foot wood, probably a cedar material.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so I think that's all in all very nice. We will send a memo with our discussion points and review to the planning board as you proceed with your process. When are you before the planning board? Do you know yet, Evans?
Yeah, so we have filed our application, but because of the planning board schedule in July, we are scheduled to be in front of the planning board on their August 16th hearing.
Okay, well, we'll definitely get it to you as soon as we can. And thanks for the presentation and the information. It's very useful.
Thank you, everybody.
And I think it'll be a nice facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is 144 Gould Street, Epic Insurance.
That's me, Ray from Boston Sign Company.
Okay.
You guys have the drawing in front of you?
Just a minute.
What page on the PDF, please? Anybody?
Trying to get there.
Yeah.
45.
Thank you, Steve. Got it.
Okay, why don't you just, I mean, it's fairly
Sure,
obvious.
we're
but
looking
I'd
to,
appreciate it. Take us through it, please.
Sure. The insurance company has changed names and they're looking to replace the existing lit sign with a similar lit sign in the same place on the building.
So this is a sign on a raceway,
Correct.
2 raceways or a single?
2.
Okay, so you have the Epic on a raceway and insurance.
Correct.
And how are you, well, I'll let the others get started. Steve, do you have any questions?
No, does it take up the same footprint as the Whirlwind sign? Or is it
Don't
bigger?
know. I haven't measured it. It appears to be a little smaller.
It does face 128.
It's a
So they
couple
have,
feet. It's a couple feet shorter. I think.
okay.
We didn't go up and measure the existing sign, and we didn't make it. But from the photo rendering, essentially a little bit smaller, but it's essentially the same size. Well under the 100 feet that we're allowed, based on the zoning that we're facing Route 128.
So what is the square footage?
It's at the top of the page next to proposed. It's 39.5 square feet.
Okay. Is this a yellow going to light up on the bottom of Epic?
No, just the white lights up.
All right. I have no other further questions. Thank you.
Bob?
No, I think it looks kind of cleaner, and if it is a little smaller, I think that's fine at that size. Even viewing from 128, it's clean. So I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I guess my only question, I think a nice looking sign fits into that panel well, as we've seen many signs go on that building over the years. I guess my one question is, so the yellow highlight, that's just a 2-dimensional color
Paint.
change. It's not actually the bottom of the box changing or something.
No, that's not an isometric view. That's on the face of the sign, and it's paint.
Okay. Okay. So it'll just be a band at the bottom of each.
The entire sign is going to be blue on the outsides, but on the returns. But in
Okay.
that yellow area, it'll be yellow on the return. So the bottom of the sign is going to be yellow in the area where it's yellow on the face of the sign.
Okay, so the
yellow
cabinet
goes
part.
around the sign.
Okay.
Excuse me?
So the cabinet
Question.
for us. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
So on this drawing, you say that the raceway is white and you kind of show it as gray. And as I remember this building, it's really like, when anodized aluminum. Can that
The
raceway
raceway is
be
going to
painted
be
to match the
matching
building?
it's going to match the building, right? It's shown the way it is now because of just for contrast on the white paper. But the intention is for the raceway to match the building.
Yeah, the drawing says it's a white raceway, so that should be changed.
Okay.
That's all, thank you.
And then I think this might have been mentioned, so sorry if I missed it. Is the word epic is illuminated? Is insurance illuminated as well?
Yes, the word epic in white is illuminated. The blue and the yellow are opaque.
Yep.
And the word insurance is illuminated too.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Mark.
Okay. All right, well, I think it works well, meets the guidelines, meets the bylaw, so I'm comfortable with it. I note that they do call out a white raceway. They've told us they're going to make it match the building. I'm comfortable with that, but if the members would like me to make that a condition, I'm happy to do that.
I think it's prudent to make it a condition. It's a minor condition.
All right, so I would accept a motion to approve the sign with the condition that the raceways match the color of the building behind.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, and we come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Yes.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
Chair, and the chair approves. All right, so thank you. That's a nice sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Signing off.
Yep,
Okay,
that's helpful.
and last applicant tonight, thanks for waiting. 110 Gould / Hampton / Kearney. We looked at this facade changes recently on this. They were doing some, I'm not sure everybody was here, but they were doing some nice color changes and some architectural features at the entrances and around the building. We did talk about the difficulty of signage. So Elisa did email us at the beginning of the meeting their application. It was not, unfortunately, not in the package, but we can take a look at it now. I guess my one concern is I don't really know where it is. Was there a site plan included to show us where this is going to go?
Yeah, there should have been. I mean, I have it here, but there should have been a site plan included. It's basically going on the corner of Gould and Kearney.
Okay, so that's as you come down Gould from Highland, that's the first, that end of it's the first, you'll first can see the building. It's on that corner.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I will, why don't you describe this to us, please?
Yeah, sure. We're just proposing to do a monument sign. It's basically a Core-10 panel. Like as you mentioned, you saw the renderings that were previously approved. So the Core-10 is basically what we're putting. It's just like what we're putting on the facade of the building. Basically, it's going to be laser cut with what says Block 95. It's going to be a 2 foot tall by 7 foot Core-10 panel that sits on top of a concrete base, 1 foot tall by 7 wide concrete base. We feel it meets the requirements of the town. It's going to have a light pocket that's going to be 2 LED white and blue lights that are backlit. And it's going to sit in the channel of the concrete kind of slab that will be backlit. Total square foot of the sign is 14, which we know the max is 32, and it will be the required 15 feet from street, and it is 3 feet in height, the sign. So we feel we come within the criteria of the town.
Okay. All right. I will open it up to the members. Steve?
I'm just concerned about the lighting. I don't know whether it will be effective as far as uplighting that way, and then also about just filling up with snow and ice in the winter.
The lighting, yep. I mean, we do have these types of signs elsewhere. 3 other properties and Natick, Newton, and they all pan out okay. Snow, rain.
So there haven't been a maintenance issue as far as
Okay.
someone go and clean those out when that snows? Or do you
Yeah.
just not have the lighting? So when it snows, you just go without the lighting, the accent lighting.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be on a timer, but the accent lighting, I mean, we sit this thing above and it really, there's drainage below we have it set up so there's drainage, for the light. It's not sitting directly on the concrete, so it's really, hasn't really been a problem elsewhere. So it's not really a maintenance issue, no.
Okay.
And like, what color is the steel going to be? Is it going to be silver as it says on the print? Front panel painted matte silver to match building color, to be determined.
Are you looking at the same thing, Steve? That's Corten steel, which
It's Corten
Yeah, I
steel.
know.
has
like
a
a bronze.
It's
self-rust.
Corten steel painted matte silver to match building color. Right on the print.
If you look on the left description,
That's-
it says Corten steel with steel cutout graphics and decorative pucks. Doesn't. The front
If you look in
panel,
the middle where it
Yeah,
says
that's the back panel.
that's
The
the rear
front panel
panel.
is gonna be Corten steel, Corten metal laser cutout.
The back panel is the painted panel.
Correct.
So, well, the back panel is, you specify that as 1/8 die bond on the front and back of a frame.
Back panel painted matte silver.
So yeah, if you could just describe that rear panel, it shows it an inch thick. How is that not just, how does that stay vertical, I guess, is the question.
I mean, I'll have to confirm, but I think the Corten is, no, they're not attached. Separate. How did,
But, I mean, you're telling us you've done these before, that just, it doesn't look as, I mean, there's got to be some sort of anchorage system that we're not seeing.
yeah, yeah, I mean, like, I mean, they're anchored usually into the concrete. There's a base at the bottom where it meets the concrete, and then it's just anchored in.
You got a 4-inch, basically you've got a 2-inch
Yeah,
open.
4-inch sleeve, yep.
Right, well, it's not a lot, but. All right, Bob, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm still trying to rectify where this is located at Gould and Kearney. Which corner, please?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and show us the site plan, and we'll check with Lisa. Okay, you could back it out a little bit.
And the third attachment, it's on
There
there.
you go.
Yeah, yes, I have that, but what I'm looking at on Google Earth doesn't match this drawing. Now, maybe things have changed since the Google Earth image.
Well, yeah, there's been an island installed right on the corner there.
Okay, great.
I don't know
That
if you've driven by, but it has our for lease sign up.
Okay,
And it's basically going, 15 feet from Gould in. I don't know if you're familiar with the building, but it's basically toward the front corner where Fortune Metal is.
okay, that helps. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, good. Yeah, and I think the only question I had, I think we've already discussed, but I was concerned about the drainage in that channel where those lights are on the concrete. If this, if it's sloped just even to get rainwater out, you must have thought of that in your other signs.
We have, yes.
Yeah.
So if you see on the small circle in the right-hand corner, you can see the gap for water drainage. So nothing sits in that channel. It's all elevated.
Okay. And if you don't mind, you said you did others of these. Where might those be?
So there's on Wells Ave, we did 60 Wells Ave, we done 180 Wells Ave, and we've done 9 Tech Circle in Natick.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
And I apologize, I did find the site plan.
You did,
It wasn't attached in my email, it was simply on the email sheet, and I didn't
I'll get you.
scroll down far enough to find it. I just opened up the attachment, so I do have that. Sorry, Elisa. All right, well, I think the location's good, and that, again, this neighborhood is wall-to-wall paving. Again, I like the definition that they've started to create with creating that island corner. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good location for it.
Yep.
I mean, we don't
Oh, yeah.
really have a lot of information about how it's attached to that concrete and how, but if it falls over, it's not really our problem. They'll figure out a way to fix it. But
Right.
I don't think, the fact that they've done them before.
Yeah.
Makes me think that there's probably a detail that we're missing here that is going to resolve that issue for them.
And Mark, another quick thing, and thank you for giving me the address. So I just Googled 60 Wells and I can look at it, which brings up, it looks like a good sign. So, but just a quick question, there appears to be some kind of a fixture or wire or conduit or box outside the sign itself at 60 Wells Ave. And I'm
Yeah,
just-
that's the power coming in. That is correct.
okay, will that be on this one as well?
Yes, for the lights, yeah. I
Can
mean,
that be-
you,
Can that be
Yeah.
put on the back?
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
I'm just
Yeah.
getting it visual because the sign is presented doesn't show it and it looks clean and clear.
Right.
And the one at 60 Wells, it's fairly obvious that this thing it's got to be there, obviously. But if we could put it
Yep.
on the back, that'd be great.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks.
See a problem with
Um,
that. And it will go on the back, it will probably go on obviously the back of the concrete slab.
Yep.
Yep.
And then, and maybe it's not a fair comparison, it's a different location, but on the concrete on the 60 Wells Ave, there's another sign or another letters, smaller letters that don't match the company on the building in front of it. So I'm just curious what that is, if you know.
Oh, that's the owner of, that's the developer.
Okay, fine, never mind.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. I don't have anything else. Steve, are you satisfied?
Just have one more question. Like the LEDs, do they have like a cap that goes over it, like a half moon plastic cap that light shines through? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
These are- Okay. Just, yeah. There's probably a little track that they hook into.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. That's it.
All right. I don't have anything else. I think, obviously there's a little bit of information that we could use to assure this, but I temper that by the fact that they've done several of these and they work. So I do think I'll make the condition that we put the power connection on the rear. And then I don't know if, does anybody have any other issues?
No.
Okay, so I would take a motion to approve it with the condition that the power connection be attached on the rear side of this concrete support structure.
So moved.
Seconded.
And we come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Yes.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
and the chair approved. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Yep, thank you, guys.
Okay, and the next item is the minutes of May 16th. Let me get down to them here. Sorry, hold on. Okay, we were all there, so good. So any questions or comments on the minutes of May 16th?
No.
So I would take a motion to approve the minutes of May 16th.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, and the vote, Bob Dermody,
Yes.
Steve Tanner,
Yes.
and the chair approves. Okay, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
We vote, Bob Dermody,
I'm going to vote yes on this one.
Steve Tanner,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
It's unanimous.
There we go.
Good work on a tough night, Mark.
Thanks. So we've, Lisa and I, so we can stop recording, I believe, once we're through, right?